Welcome into the At the Yard podcast, episode 127. After a long summer hiatus from podcasting, we are back this time to recap the future games, the 2025 future games that saw California bring two teams, one team from NorCal, one team from SoCal for the first time ever. But before we get into that, we want to introduce the newest member of our team, Vinnie Alfino. Vinnie, welcome to the team. You've been with us for, about 6-7 months, earned your stripes, and now you're on the team, big dog. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, guys. Happy to be officially part of the team. It was a good time interning, but I'm happy that I can transition into this role with you guys. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the future games. Vinnie, first time for you out at the future games at Lake Point in Georgia. Just wanted to get your initial thoughts, impressions. Some really long days. You were not only working with us, but you were working with HQ doing some different stuff. So just your initial thoughts and impressions of the event.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was definitely a very good experience for myself working it, and I couldn't imagine it for the players that were out there. I mean this in the best way possible. It was a little overwhelming at first. Looking at every corner, there was 30, 40 scouts in every direction. I think we had over 400 scouts in attendance there. So it was really awesome experience for me to, see the talent on the field. It was probably the best case of talent I've seen across the country for an entire tournament. And I think it was really good for us to be able to field two teams to get, the most product of talent out of California possible, to get recruiters' eyes on them. And I thought that the guys that we did bring for NorCal and SoCal brought, they really were able to display their case of talent in front of a lot of eyes. So it was a once in a lifetime experience for me. It was awesome. And I can't imagine what it was for the guys that were on the field playing. So.
Yeah. And Hardy and Hank, the year two for you guys, just your thoughts on the differences between last summer and this summer as it pertains to the future games themselves.
I'll back up Vinny. Last year was my first year, and I would say the exact same thing. It was very overwhelming. I had heard about it, I knew about it, but I had never experienced it. So walking in, it was like just everywhere you go, you're bumping into a college coach from somewhere around the country, whether that's Power 4, SEC, ACC, or Power Mid-Major. Just they're everywhere. So I think this year was being able to slow down and appreciate everything that event has to offer. The coolness of NorCal and Davis Wilson coming out, and you look up in the stands and just all of these chins pop up. And then our guys go out from SoCal under the lights, and there's just a gigantic crowd, and being able to sit back and go like, dude, this is awesome. Like, not just for us as a staff, but look at all of what these kids are getting and all the opportunities this is providing. So it was a much more pleasurable experience this year, not as much overwhelmed and like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Head is spinning with everything that's going on. So.
Yeah, no, Hardy, I agree. But I think this year for me, especially, I think it was just the most rewarding. Because I did get to bring, a group of, 25 kids from up here. Last year, it was just so hectic for me because that was like my first event ever. So talk about getting thrown in the fire. But I think just this year, forming the team, I look at it as like his all-star team, you try to find the best players you can in the state or this part of the state. And then, once you're out there, you're like, oh, wow, this is, legit. And I think this year I did get to like chill a little bit more. But as far as terms of like, everything was still hectic in my brain, like, seeing all the scouts, doing the lineups, just talking in between everybody. But yeah, I think for me this year was a lot more special just because, we got to have two teams, and then you're like, you finally get to see some of the talent you miss out on. But yeah, it was really rewarding this year.
Yeah, and so what are the future games? You might be asking yourself. It's an abundance of riches, and when it pertains to talent, as you guys touched on. But essentially, it's a 4-day event. Starts with the workout, and then workout day, and then we go into games. Tip of the cap to Texas. Those boys are no joke. North and South Texas. I mean, they took it to us for sure. But what a great experience for our guys to be able to see that and compete against that. But I wanted to start the podcast just talking about like kind of the workout warriors, right? And so how the workout is done is it's split up on 2 fields. You run and do your defense on one field, head over to the cages, get some swings in, and then you do your live hitting on a different field. I was on the hitting field. You guys were on the defense field. And so I'll let you guys touch on that point of it. But we started with the 60s, and we had some pretty impressive 60 numbers from, guys that we anticipated would run well. And then, a guy like 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝, a catcher that busted out a 6.65, which was second best on both of our teams. That really caught my attention because, as you mentioned, Hank, he's, like about 200 pounds behind the dish, blocks and recovers pretty well for a guy that's a 6.65. That's really impressive.
Yeah, about Cruz, a lot of people don't know about Cruz is he actually lives in the Philippines for, I think, 9 months of the year. So he does miss out on a lot of the better baseball competition, but for him to still, do all those things he's doing and, like you said, 200 plus running a 6.6 is, hard to come by. But yeah, I mean, 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 was another guy that caught my eye. And even your guys like this kid too, is Ira Rootman had a really good 60. I think he led our team actually, or the whole state actually. But yeah, I'm always a fan of Ira, just even from last year's future games too. I remember just chatting it up with him, and I think Hardy's boy Richter ran a really good out there too. I know you're high
6'5", 210, like you talked about. I actually wasn't at the workout. I was over with our senior future games team, so I got caught up on a lot of this by looking at the numbers. And Richter was one. I knew he had a ton of tools. The one that really impressed me is the kid probably flying the most under the radar of any kid we took out there, but Charlie Cummings running a 6'9". That really impressed me. I think he came to SoCal Top Prospect last fall and got a couple knocks, and you could see the baseball ability, but the athleticism wasn't quite there yet. And now the athleticism is catching up to the baseball ability. He's a name. I think that's going to really bring himself up the radar for a lot of people.
There was another kid from NorCal, Trey Hal Chase.
Yeah.
And thing about Trey is he's a 3-sport athlete. He could play pro soccer right now, which is crazy. And he's the point guard on the basketball team. So, I mean, he can dunk already, but he ran like a 6'6" or 6'7" out there. And he was just coming from a soccer tournament in San Diego, going to the future games. So he's another athlete to where it's like, dude, if you just pick baseball, you might be legit. He's JP Hal's nephew. So he's got some bloodlines.
Vinny, who stood out to you during just the running portion of the workout? I know you were over on that field too.
Well, I was actually on the hitting side with you because I was doing because so from the running side, I mean, obviously I know Ira runs a good 60, and I know that 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 ran a good 6.65, but I was on the baseball side with you, so I didn't see any of the running. So
yeah, Colton Hadfield, I think, really impressed me too. Hank, I mean, 6.96. As we pivot over into the kind of the infield velo portion of things, like had the highest infield velo at 91, had a couple knocks in the games. Like he was a pretty impressive guy too out of Valley Christian.
Yeah, Hattie took over about mid-season. Valley Christian, he was their actual shortstop, and on that team is pretty legit. So the glove's real. I'd say he's one of the premier West Coast defenders. Good thing about Hattie is he could run too, and his bat's I like the bat a lot. And he's pretty lean too. So I think, with him, he's like 160 pounds. It's like, dude, you get to 180, 185, and he's been up to 90, 92 on the mound, I think.
Yeah, he's a pretty interesting guy. I mean, really nice kid too. Just talking to him in the dugout during the games, and just a really nice kid. But Looking at some of the other infield velos, 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐿 89 across the diamond. JoJo Flores, 89 across the diamond. Your guy Jace Woolley from Cardinal Newman, 87. Cade
Love some
McElroy.
Jace.
Yeah, Jace was. I like Jace.
Yeah.
Swiss Army knife for the group.
The Swiss Army knife, the muscle hamster, just little, compact, strong dude.
He's a very strong kid.
Yes.
Cade McElroy, I know who you were pretty high on going into the event. 84. Parker Leoff, who we'll get into here in a little bit, 84. The guy that really impressed me during the workout portion and in game, just given the size that he's added since I last saw him at the NorCal preseason All-State, Mason Hackler. And I think I said that to you, Hank, the first time I saw him out there was like, dude, he's got to have put on about 15 pounds of muscle. And it's translating because Vinny, I know during BP when we were over on that field, he had 2 really good rounds of BP during that portion of the event too.
Yeah, even at the tryout, Hackler was one of those guys. I think he had the farthest hit ball of 405, and you're just like, who is this kid? And you play a little more. And then guys like him and Riley Jackson, I think they're almost like twins in a sense. They both say they're shortstops, but I think when it's all said and done, they're either going to be in the outfield or a third first baseman. But the bat's real for both of them.
Yeah. Vinny, what are your thoughts on him, Hackler, just like from the workout that we saw as BP as well as the games?
Yeah, I thought Mason, the bat translated to in-game, but the EV was high. He could hit to all fields. I think that, like Hank was saying, I think first base, third base kind of long-term for him, but the hit tool, I think, is something that's going to play for him long-term at the next level. And the 2 BP rounds that he had were obviously very loud, and I think that he can catch the ball deep. He can go the other way, and I'm a big fan of Hackler. He's going to continue to progress. The body is going to continue to fill out for him. So, he impressed me for both rounds for sure.
Yeah, and Hank, is he the water polo guy?
Yeah, he's. I think that played a huge part in him getting stronger in the off season. He plays water polo. So
is he still playing, or is he going baseball only? That's awesome.
No, he does that in the off season, and then it kind of just gets him going.
Yeah, it's a couple other numbers here. Zion Martinez, Cole Munyon, both at 83 across the diamond, both big time hitting potential guys. Particularly Zion from the left side. He hit 2 out during BP. That his last one was just deep into the trees beyond right field fence. Munyon's BP was just okay. It wasn't eye-opening, but some of the at-bats.
It's a game bat.
Right. Some of the at-bats he took in game were pretty eye-opening, including that bomb he hit against NorCal in the last game. Elijah Mason, 82 across the diamond. We'll get to him in a little bit. Charlie Cummings, the guy you mentioned earlier, 80. Stevie Wellens, 79, but it gets out of the hand in a hurry. I don't put too much into these numbers just because, if it's 90 and it's 6 feet over the first baseman's head, who cares? This was right here, for every first baseman, and it was pretty damn impressive. Riley Jackson, the guy you mentioned a bit ago, 78. And then my boy, William Waldridge, from first base, 76. Wally was that guy's got the mentality of a middle linebacker playing first base. I love it.
He's coming downhill, and he's going to lay you out.
Yes.
I like how you brought up those numbers, Les. I was going to talk about that, and because I was on the defensive side, and thing about specifically the SoCal shortstops is they're not going to blow you away with the arms, but they're all gamers. They can all play catch, and it looks clean. So it's he may not be 90 across the diamond, but he gets a little older. It's still going to play. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I see guys like Wellens and Parker Leoff not throwing 90, it doesn't really scare me. It's more, hey, they're fundamental. They can both hit, and, it looks good. So it's the arm they can always work on. But, like you said, just baseball players, I feel like we did a really good job of bringing those guys out.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
I
lot of
think
quick transfer too. Like those guys aren't trying to rip it off. Like they're getting it out of the glove and getting it to first base quick. And it may actually get there faster than some guys throwing 92 because it's in and out without a double pump, 3 crow hops, and a flip at the end of the throw.
Right. It's like, we all know how
It's
to
game
hold runners
speed.
on too. So it's not like, the actual fundamentals of the game are, it's you
Yeah.
can tell from our side of the state.
Yeah, and I think kind of to piggyback on with Walbridge, I think he kind of set the tone for NorCal because the arms at Texas were really good. There was a lot of scouts behind home plate in game 1, and that ball he hit to dead center, I think, kind of helped everyone relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Understand like, okay, we're here. A guy got off. We got a hit, and I think that was a big setting tone for NorCal because there's a lot of scouts. Emotions are flying early, and for him to get that hit, dead center double, I think kind of helped everyone relax.
It's fun. I'm glad you bring that up, Vinny, because I was coaching first base and I went to go get his elbow guard, and he had a few choice words to say.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
I'll keep it clean, but it was like, you're not going to sneak that past me. Come on, man. I just at that point, at the end of that inning, Hank, you walked over from coaching third base, and I was like, dude, that's my guy. That is my guy right there.
That's Big Will.
Big Will, dude. It was awesome. I love that stuff because I think a lot of it had to do with like understanding the opportunity that the situation provided, like you were kind of getting at, Vinny.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys were kind of tight. And then that happened, and it was like, okay, and it helps that the Davis Wilson came out and he was, just as good as their arm was, if not better. But moving on to outfield guys, outfield velos were pretty impressive top to bottom. Bryce Ferris led the pack out of Whitney, 96 from the outfield on the bag. Your guy Richter Hardy, 93. Rudy, who we'll talk about here in a bit, again, 90 from the outfield. Trey Howell Chase and Chase Mena, who we brought from SoCal that played for NorCal and SoCal, 87. Chase Johnson from Redwood, 86. And then Quentin Hill out of Berkeley High, 85. The thing that really stands out to me there is looking at that list is the amount of NorCal guys, right? It's just there's just some differences in body types and in just kind of physical strength between the NorCal guys and the SoCal guys that, these numbers kind of bear out.
Yeah. I was actually out there in the outfield when it was going on, and starting with your guys' 2 outfielders, those bodies are a little different. Richter and Rootman, especially Richter, he moves around pretty good out there for being his size, and both their arms are kind of similar. Richter's is a bit stronger, but they're both 90 plus. And actually, Ferris was a bit of a surprise out there. He actually was an infielder the whole year, but we knew he had a strong arm. And then he pops a 6 out there, and we'll see what happens on the mound later when we talk about that. But my guys from NorCal, they all did really well. It's just, I know they train a lot up here. They get that little downtime that SoCal doesn't get to take some time off and train. So I think that does play a part when we do later stuff down the road. But just overall, I thought they were all pretty athletic. They all showed out. The velo's pretty good, but even just moving, the first steps were good. It wasn't sloppy. But yeah, I thought all the outfielders did really well.
I think the Howell Chase one was really that athleticism and that arm. And I know we're not going to talk a lot about game right now, but it was called a non-catch, but I still think it was a catch. And I think, Vinny, you confirmed this because you were on a camera in center field. But the kid ran 130 feet, dove onto the warning track 4 or 5 feet away from the fence. And I was standing up in the bleachers and I think watching something. And I remember my jaw dropping and going, where did he come from? How did he even, 1, get close enough to have that be a controversial play? And 2, he caught that ball. That thing was in his glove. So that athleticism, that soccer background, that arm, the kid's got a chance to be a dynamic center fielder.
That was with an infield glove, by the way.
That's even better. That is even better.
Yeah, I would say being in center field, because I was on the camera out there, I didn't think he had a chance to get that ball. I was already looking kind of, is this guy going to stretch for a triple? And then at the last second, I see him lay out fully and catch it. And I think you guys saw me. I was full palms up out in center field because I was like, he caught that ball. Like I don't know what the catch probability was, but it had to have obviously been very low. But yeah, the athleticism is off the charts, and I don't think a lot of center fielders make that play. Even maybe get there to even make a diving effort. But yeah, he caught that ball. Great catch, obviously. But even with that, they didn't call it. Recruiters see the athleticism out there, even making that effort, making that even a controversial play, right? So, I mean, all in all, catch, no catch, recruiters see that. So
I don't know what made me lose my mind more, the fact that he got there and made the play, or the fact that the umpire was standing like 1 foot into the outfield and called it a no catch. We won't get into those Southern umpires and they're just damn.
We almost lost Les a couple times. There were a couple times where we had to get Les back in the dugout and calm him down.
Oh, dude. Man, like the called strike 3 on Richter, though. Was it up his hands and almost hit him in the elbow? Yeah. Oh, man.
Or like $5 they called.
Yeah. What are we doing? But anyhow, we won't dive into that. Let's jump over to the catchers because, in my opinion, I think we had kind of the best group of 6 catchers that we could have possibly had. From SoCal, Cody Brown, Luke Bacon, and Evan Rodriguez. From NorCal, Cruz Garcia, we've mentioned Mully, Logan Moll, and 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝. Some of the pop times, particularly at the top, were really darn impressive. Gio, 190 to 201. Cody Brown, who has since committed to Santa Barbara, 197 to 202. Luke Bacon, 198 to 209. Evan Rodriguez, 201 to 207. Mully, 202 to 205. Then Cruz, a 2-1 to a 2-2. The thing that was impressive to me is just going back and watching the videos, like these throws are all on the bag.
Yeah.
And it's, and if they're off the bag, they're off the bag to the second base side, giving their second baseman or shortstop an opportunity at a tag. And some of the velos, 80 at the top with Mully and Gio, 76 for Cody Brown, Bacon 74, Erod 74, and then Cruz 71. Again, the quickness with which they get rid of the ball, kind of like the shortstops you talked about, Hardy, I think that's what was most impressive to me.
Yeah, they're game arms. Like that, they can play in game. Those guys are on the bag and they're going to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, I was again over there. I loved all the SoCal catchers. They all threw really well, but I think the thing that we did a good job with is they all have something different about them. It's like, one has the hit tool, one has the arm tool, but they're all good enough to where when they're together, it's like, oh, damn, these kids are all pretty good.
Yeah.
I just remember that first game, my NorCal team was playing Texas, and Logan Moll put on a display.
Yeah.
He had to catch Mariano, but
grinding.
Man, that was
he's impressive. A wall back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he had a ball go to the backstop all week.
Yeah.
I mean, just tough as nails behind the plate.
Yeah, offensively,
he really has like the catcher mentality to me.
100%. And both those guys aren't big,
No.
Right.
All of our catchers aren't, huge.
They're not big in stature, but
they're athletic.
They're
all athletic. Like every one of them looks good back there. They can move. Like they're athletes catching, not just big bodies back there.
And I was over there for a lot of the, multiple states workout, and our guys are lining up just as much as, the guys that are rolling 1/8 and stuff. And, just like Les was saying, the transfers, the footwork, everything's a little cleaner.
Yeah. The thing that really impressed me about Mully, a JFG guy from a couple years ago, is that second day when we were playing one of the Texas teams, we were getting squeezed, man, like big time squeezed. And I just kept looking at him. I'm like, Mully, like, and he's just kind of looking at me just like, I'm like, are we off? And he's like, no. And that's when between innings, I had to like went over and talk to the umpire, and And I'm like, look, man, like this is what my catcher is telling me, man. And he's just like, well, your catcher's wrong. I'm like, I doubt it, right? I highly doubt that he's wrong on 17 pitches, right? And you know, Mully just kind of looked at me. He's like, thanks, thanks, Les. I'm like, dude, like I got you. Like, there's no way we're missing that bad, right? And
Yeah.
Just their understanding, and particularly your guys, Hank, just to be able to see them in that sort of environment in that game. Like their understanding and their knowledge of what they're trying to do with their pitchers and where they're calling pitches, what pitches they're calling in certain counts. Like that was really impressive because obviously you mentioned it earlier. There's downtime in NorCal. Like they're not playing 11 months out of the year. I mean, weather wouldn't permit that, but just their understanding and their ability to do that was something that really impressed me with your guys.
Yeah, I think they take pride in that, I mean, because like you said, you can't train all year. So it's like, you got to get stronger mentally and, become a student of the game. And I think I'm trying to do a better job of that up here is, teaching these kids like, hey, you got to be a baseball player first. Cause you're only going to be good for so long. And so, even just talking baseball with the guys, like they're baseball players. And I think that's, a really good job of our state representing well. And, it's just nice to hear, like, I even talked to Mully about the catching stuff. And he's like, we're going to, work off of this, call this and this count. If he doesn't have this, we'll switch to that. I'm like, boy, Mully.
Yeah, good player, man. Really good player. But, we had what I believe to be, about 50 of the best guys in the class there representing for us. Right. And the process for them was, based on their feedback was great. Like, they all went to a tryout. They all got an invitation from that tryout. And then they all, I really believe and feel they really embraced the opportunity. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember walking up, to Leoff and Mason before our workout. It was a couple hours before our workout, and they were there. And Parker just kind of looked at me as like, Coach, like this is insane, right? Like I've never seen so many coaches, and that can be a bit overwhelming for a 15, 16-year-old kid, right? I mean, you see 450 plus college coaches. I mean, it's overwhelming for us, right?
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, I can't imagine being a 15, 16-year-old kid trying to go out and perform in front of that. But we had some guys that really performed really, really well. So let's dive into those guys. And Hank, I'm going to start with you. This is a guy we obviously knew about through the spring season. But, you actually came to your pro case, I believe, and earned an invitation from the pro case. Went out, and all he did was have a lights out performance, right? There's no other way to put it. I mean, Davis Wilson was electric. I mean, up to 93, living 91, 93 his entire 2 innings. Don't believe he gave up a hit. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Just one.
Just the one hit, right, which was the little flare, right?
Yeah, right field, yeah.
Yeah. Earned an invitation to our All-American game here in a few weeks as a result of his performance. So, Hank, take it away and talk a little bit about Davis Wilson.
Good old Davis. So I saw Davis. I went and saw him at the end of the high school season, and you've heard a bunch about him, and I've known him for a little bit. But when I saw him, he was up to 93 again, and I'm like, I go up to his dad after. I'm like, what do we got to do to get you to, Georgia? And, I invited him to the pro case. I think he struck out like 6 hitters. And so, it's kind of been an ongoing thing of trying to get him there. And so we finally do it. And, he's the type of kid where, yes, coach, I got game 1 for you. Because I told him he was getting game 1. And, but it's funny because you talk to him off the field. He is a goofball. Like the kid, he messes around, he's talkative, but as soon as he crosses those white lines, something just kind of clicks. And then, you guys saw it. We were all kind of just, chilling back, watching him throw, and everyone was pretty silent after that first inning. And he goes out and does it again. We're like, yeah, this kid's real. But yeah, no, Davis, he's a treat to be around. Great guy to be in the dugout. But I just respect the way he competes. Like some kids don't know how to separate it. But he's obviously got electric stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how he does in Miami and the rest of his pitching career.
Yeah, it was quite the impressive outing from him. Like I said, up to 93. But you're right, man. He's just a kind of a goofy kid and had a lot of fun in the dugout. And I mean, he was a lot of fun to be around. And I wasn't aware of his military background, but you can see that right when he steps on the field and it's time to go to work. It was just a quality performance. And I'm fired up for him to earn that invitation to the All-American game, and even more fired up to be in the dugout with him there. But let's move on to the next guy. Hardy, I'll go to you. A guy that was kind of a late add to our tryout at Modern Day. Get a call. Hey, you got room for one more guy? Yes, I understand he was a JV player last year at Huntington Beach, but this guy's got a chance to be pretty darn good. And, Elijah Mason lived up to that at the tryout where both Vinnie and I were, a pair of doubles and a triple, and, ran incredibly well. But Hardy, your first look at him was out at the Future Games. And, I just want to hear what your take is on the left-handed hitting left side of the infield guy.
Actually got a chance to see him briefly right before it at a tryout out here, and it was interesting. And we talked about Cummings being probably the most under the radar kid, but I think you could also make a case for Mason because, like you said, he played JV at Huntington Beach, and playing JV at Huntington Beach is not a slight because you're talking about one of the best programs nationally. And it kind of lines up with what you guys are talking about. He's kind of a goofy kid. He's definitely Southern California. Like, I could picture this kid being out at Huntington Beach, surfing at 6 a.m. and then rolling up to school and playing baseball. But I think the thing about him that really stunned me is, like, in a tryout setting, you're going to see a guy's tools, but he's got some loud tools. It's 100+ EV. He ran a 6.6 out there. I think he ran a 6.5 at the tryout, or 6.4, something like that. It's present bat speed. It's present hand speed. It's this wiry, twitchy, athletic frame and all of this, but it's how easy he does it. Like, it doesn't look like he's trying to swing fast, and he swings fast. He doesn't look like he's trying to hit a ball over the fence, and he hits a ball over the fence. Like, it is just this natural grace and easy athleticism. He came out, he got 4 knocks on the week, but 2 of them came on that opening night when we were playing, I believe it was North Texas. They threw an All-American arm, and then they followed it up with another All-American arm, and he goes double-double off of both of them. But I had a great conversation with him at third. He gets to third, and he was kind of a little frustrated about the first one because it was up and in on him. He got tied up a little bit, and he shot it down the left field line. And he's like, man, I got to hit that ball into the right center gap, and I got to hit it for a triple. And I'm like, dude, good hitters can be late. Good hitters are facing good arms, and they still find a way to keep that ball foul or fair down the left field line instead of shooting it foul. I'm like, you're a good hitter. And a good hitter gets that hit. A bad hitter swings and misses. A bad hitter fouls that ball off. So it's, he holds himself to a high standard, but the kid's just got as immense potential as anybody we took out there, considering, like we talked about, not a whole lot of people knew about him. It was a late ad. It's kind of a late push by some people. And then you get him out there, and he looks like one of the best players in the state. So I was super, super impressed with Elijah. I think that kid's got a ceiling that's as high as anybody we took there. Vinny, you brought one guy up that you really liked, and I really liked. He was actually a candidate I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure Les wants to talk about this kid because he loves him. I think we all do. But Joseph Flores out of the Inland Empire, he had a heck of a week out there.
Yeah, so JoJo going now to Corona High School next year had a really good week. It was my second time getting a look at JoJo. And I think what people don't understand, obviously, he's a SoCal shortstop. I think he fits that, prototypical description, but he's also up to 89 on the mound too. So he has two-way potential. But the thing with JoJo is that the hit tool is already there, and it's aggressive swing, late kick, heavy hand load. can go the other way well. EV was up to 96 in the workout, has a 60-yard of 7:05. But the big thing I like with JoJo that I didn't know he really had was that with 2 strikes, he kind of widened out, shortened up, because it is an aggressive swing with the leg kick. So you can see the mature approach is already there with him. Baseball IQ, he's a smart player, and he can just flat out pick it at shortstop. 89 across the diamond, the arm's going to stick to the left side. And I think that like I said, the SoCal shortstop, he fits that mold to a T just because of the glove. It's going to play long-term for him. And I think the body's already filled out, 180 pounds. There's muscle there. And I think he's going to have, a good future at Corona for the next 2 years when he heads over there.
Yeah, no doubt. He's off to a really good start, and he wants it bad, right? And that's the thing that really impresses me, is that he wants it bad and he puts in the work for it too. So, the guy that I think opened everyone's eyes, all of us on the staff, was our guy 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 out of Harvard Westlake. Hardy, you and I each had an opportunity to see him during the spring. I saw them, their first game of the season, Huntington's first game of the season, out at Blair Field, and he hit a ball into the gap off of a very good Huntington Beach arm for a double, and that immediately caught my attention. Fastball on the outer half that he pulled into the right center field gap, and 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 was electric out there. I mean, he was outstanding in terms of not only his personality, but his ability to hit the ball. He was, I want to say, our offensive MVP for Team SoCal, 5 for 7, if I'm not mistaken, might have been 6 for 8, had a bomb, had a couple of doubles, a couple of base hits, a couple of interesting plays there at first base. There was one on a high fly ball that got kind of tangled up, but he ended up making the catch. But just his personality combined with his ability to hit is what really impressed me. He doesn't take himself too seriously. I love those guys where it's not, life or death in every situation. When he needed to get serious, he got serious. I was lucky enough to be able to do an interview during our game, and I made a comment of, his position is the batter's box. And I think that held true. He hits everything. He hits good pitching. He hits bad pitching. And he just has the ability to get the barrel on the ball, no matter of what the situation is. And it's just a really impressive hit tool that I think is going to be, valued as he moves forward. Pretty good GPA guy over at Harvard Westlake, where they take academics incredibly seriously, obviously. But 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 for me is a guy who is trending up in a really, really positive way, is going to have a lot of opportunities, I believe, to play college baseball and potentially beyond college baseball, because the hit tool is very real.
𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 hits baseball.
Baseball's hard.
Very hard.
That's all I got to say about 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝.
Right.
That's all I will ever say about 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 is 𝐘𝐚𝐫𝐝 hits baseballs really hard.
Yeah.
He's the hitman. He's your prototypical, if he learns to play first base a little better, then hey, go for it. But I'll stick him in the middle of my lineup any day.
100%. And I think that's something I said on that interview too.
Yeah.
Like, this is a middle of the order bat anywhere you go. I mean, the guy, is batting third at Harvard Westlake as a sophomore, and sets a school record with 7 bombs. Like, that's a guy that is going to play baseball beyond high school. I don't care, where you play him. As long as that guy's bat is in the lineup, you're going to be in good shape. And, when he's going to have to face guys like the next guy you're going to talk about here, Hank, and Mariano Gonzalez, who went out and absolutely shoved, scuffled a little bit at times, but when it was on, it was really damn impressive.
Yeah, Mo rose to the occasion. Obviously his pitch count was a little high, but Mo's one of those kids where you can't teach his arm. You guys saw it, and me and Hardy were down the line, and just seeing how fast the arm moved, like God, like you can't you can't find that anywhere. And I actually was walking to the other field. I ran into Duncan. He's like, hey, that guy reminds me of Gio Rojas. I was like, oh, really? Like, that's a really good comp right there. And so, a guy like that, he obviously has a lot of work to do still. But, in terms of electricity and, how good he's going to be, I think Mo is one of those guys where you could see him pitching in a big league ballpark one day. And, it's the command that's going to be the thing with him. Once he learns, he's still young too. He's 16, 17 years old. So he's got a lot of time to figure some stuff out. And, it's just a matter of time of, getting around the right people and, go from there. But yeah, I'm a huge, huge fan of Mo.
Yeah. And in that game, that was the 4:00 game, the opening day of games.
Yeah.
I mean, I put a video on Twitter of it, but there had to be 150 schools there behind the plate watching that game.
Oh, and my guys were nervous. Like,
yeah.
They'll tell you.
That's all you saw back there was just logoed polo shirts and hats.
Right.
And
I mean, I was nervous.
There's a point in that game where the Texas guy came over, and I think it was like the 6th or 7th, and he goes, "Dude, we're just being mean to each other. Like, it's just
it was battle. Just arm after arm after arm."
Because I mean, those first 4 arms in that game, their 2 guys and our 2 guys.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Like, I mean, you're talking 92 to 95. I want to say their guy might have hit a 6, the first guy.
Yeah,
I mean, but like, dude, it was electric atmosphere, right? And it just awesome. So I mean, I understand why they were nervous. I was nervous for them, man. I mean, dude, there's a good 150 schools here. Like, those guys have never done anything like that in their lives, and to their credit, they performed, right? Another guy that kind of saved his best for the last, Hardy.
Yeah.
We've mentioned him here a couple times, Carson Richter. This is a guy you told me about early in the spring. You're like, dude, this is a potential future games guy. You described him to me, you sent me video on him. And when he registered for the tryout, I was fired up because I knew how high you were on him. But tell us, your thoughts on Richter. Outside, we mentioned, he got rung up on a ball that almost hit him. That was above the hands. That I had some words for. But the last game, he really showed offensively at least what he could do, because he made some plays and nearly made some plays defensively in the first 2 games that really showed his aptitude in the outfield.
Yeah, Carson's been a kid that I've really liked since I saw him in winter ball his freshman year at Newberry Park. And it was just like, this kid got a chance to be really special, and it just continues to slowly get a little better, I was talking to him when he was looking to register the event and asked which one I was going to be at. And I was like, don't take this the wrong way. I want somebody else to see you. Like, I've seen you enough. I need one of our other guys to see you so that you can blow their minds and they can go, we need to take this kid to Georgia. And that's exactly what he did at the tryout. He went out, and about midway through the tryout, I get a text from somebody, and they're like, hey, Hardy, who the heck is this Carson Richter kid? Like, he's really good. Like, yeah, I kind of figured. I just wanted somebody else to see him. But you said it perfectly. Like, it took him a little bit to get going. That first night, he was the beneficiary of some very bad strike calls when you're 6'5", 6'6", and it's late, and some of these umpires have already umped 3 or 4 games on the day. Your strike zone's going to get really big, and he got beat up by that a little bit. But I think one of the best things about him is he did not let that defeat him. He almost made 2 spectacular catches in center field where that 6'5" frame and then 6'5" speed almost runs down balls that probably nobody else even gets close to. He throws rockets back into the infield, keeping guys at second or third, not getting the extra 90 feet because of the arm strength. I'm walking out after the first game, and I've gotten to know his dad really well. He looks at me and he goes, Coach, you don't see that in the Marmani League, which is the league he plays in, which is a very good one. And I'm like, I told you, that's why you guys come out here. You're never going to see anything like this again until you get to college. And he's like, no, he's like, it was not what we were anticipating. And this is freaking awesome to go out and see those kind of arms. He got a little better in day 2. He hit an absolute missile right at the South Texas second baseman. Then he almost got drilled in the elbow and got rung up for strike 3. But again, he just kind of, you could see, he was frustrated, but he wasn't letting it take it out of him. And then on the third day, it all clicks. He goes right field line for an easy stand-up triple. Then he hammers another ball to left field for a single, makes a play in the outfield, and it was like, you go into college baseball, you're going to play a 3-game set on Friday night. It's going to be hard to hit. You're going to see everybody's ace. So you're trying to grind, you're trying to get something out of that first night. And then Saturday, Sundays where you pick up your numbers. And he showed, like, I can do this at the high level. I can grind against the best arms, and then I can collect and perform and help my team win games against the Saturday, Sunday guys. So I'm super high on Carson. I've had a couple talks with him and his dad since the event. He's got some good things coming up for him this fall that he was the beneficiary of. Those coaches seeing him at future games, and now he's going to take some visits and meet some people and is having some really fun conversations because of it. So I think next guy up, Vinny, let's kick it over to you. And when we talk about SoCal shortstops and super smooth operators, this kid's got a chance to maybe, when it's all said and done, be the best one of the 2027 class in Parker Leoff.
Yeah, so Parker's another transfer shortstop. He's going to be at Huntington Beach next fall. Left side of the infield's opened up over there. And like you said, Hardy, it's just smooth operation on both sides of the ball, on defense, but even at the plate, smooth middle infielder with the lefty stick. Had a EV of 98.4, but he can go the other way. He showed that in game, goes to right center to left center. I think the big thing with him, he's 176 pounds right now, but I think the body has a chance to fill out over the next 2 years. And, there's an opportunity for that line drive swing to start to see some backspin, and maybe some power numbers will jump in 26 for him. But, you can't teach the hand speed. 23, max hand speed, bat speed at 74. And I think we were talking earlier about the SoCal shortstops. They're not going to blow you away with the velocity across the diamond. It's 84, but it's at the chest every time to the first baseman. It's smooth glove to hand transfer, throws are on the money, and I think that he's a guy that can hit in all counts. And I think that going over to Huntington Beach is going to be good for him. Really good league. Obviously, we know about that. And he's already a guy that everyone knows about. And he kind of put himself on display in front of everybody out in Georgia. And now he's going to have an opportunity to go to Huntington Beach and carry that over. But just a really good kid, too. He's really, soft-spoken. It took me a while. I had to actually go up to him and go out of my way to talk to him. And then once he gets to know him, he opens up a little bit. But I think he carries himself the right way. And just a really good kid that I think is, going to help him long-term. And then obviously, the bat to ball skills are going to play as time goes on.
Yeah, the thing that really intrigued me about Parker is like he looks like he's 14 years old.
Yeah, 13. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
maybe 12.
I mean, he looks really, really young, and that's in today's day and age of 19-and-a-half-year-old seniors in high school. Like, that's really refreshing, right?
Yeah,
right. I mean, he's where he should be. That's what I really liked about it. But you're right. Once he kind of came out of his shell a little bit,
right.
Like, dude, you couldn't get him to stop talking. You had that kind of core group of him and Elijah and
Mason,
and then and then the guy I'm going to talk about here in Berge, right? Like, those three guys were all at the front of the dugout there and kind of leading the pack there. And Jay Beckett Berg, who is another guy that was a junior future games guy. He was we took him as a PO to JFG's a couple years ago, started game one for us, came back later in that weekend. I think we gave him an at-bat or two because he was still convinced he was a hitter, but we had to let him know, you're a PO, big guy. But Berge was as good as I've seen him, right? And I don't want to fuss with his stats, as he said. He went 2 innings with no hits, a couple of strikeouts, but was 90 to 92, 93, if you round up the 92.7. But it was just the quality stuff of his secondary. The improvements out of that have been so damn impressive. He opened a lot of eyes. We were kind of getting blown up a little bit by some of those college, not a little bit, a lot of it, to his credit, from a lot of those college coaches about, hey, this is a guy we need to talk to. We need to get this guy on a visit. I had one school tell me the next day after his outing, we're going to offer him everything, NIL, scholarship, the whole bit. That took a little longer to happen, but he did get that offer. He's got some visits lined up. I was just really proud of his progression, not only physically and what he's done on the mound, but as Hardy kind of mentally, was up and down for him this sophomore year at Notre Dame, right? Like he'd get some innings, he wouldn't get innings, he'd maybe get an inning here, maybe he'd get a spot start here, but just to kind of battle through that mentally, to still kind of stay consistent with his workouts, and with adding the strength and developing his stuff, was just really impressive. And one thing that I'll give him credit for, I had a college pointed out to me on our third game as this coach was kind of hanging out by our dugout, just observing, as he told me. He's like, I want to observe them, with their teammates. Towards the end of that last game, he said to me, he's like, do you realize that he's your only PO that is dressed in a full uniform the entire time of this event? So for all three games, even when he's not pitching, he's the only guy that was in full uniform. And I had noticed that, but that just kind of goes to show you what we always preach to these kids is, they're always watching, right? And for this guy, a major Power 5 coach to point that out, like, that says a lot about the kid himself, right? That, hey, dude, you're the only guy out here in full uniform, man. And these guys are noticing that.
Not to mention it was, 100 degrees.
Right.
100 with 100 humidity.
Right. And that's a good point, Hank, because I'm not knocking those guys, because we did tell them as POs, hey, you can wear shorts. Like if you want to wear shorts in the dugout, wear shorts. Yeah. Right. But this is the only guy that took it upon himself to make sure that he's in full uniform. And, that's something I got a great deal of respect for him for. And which leads us to our next guy who I hadn't seen, who a lot of coaches didn't know a dang thing about. But he earned certainly my respect, and I know everybody's respect on this podcast. And a lot of coaches' attention out there. Hank, that's your boy Wyatt 𝐘𝐿. Give us a little background on him.
So Wyatt, funny story about Wyatt is he's actually a cousin of my old teammate 𝐏𝐨𝐝 at Fullerton. So he calls me up one day. He's like, "Hey, dude, I got my cousin. He's pretty good. He's a 27." So I was like, "All right, let's send him an ID." And he's actually a shortstop. No one knows that. Like he actually hit. He's a really good shortstop. But we were like, "Hey, let's see you pitch." He's 87, 88 in like January. So I'm like, you know what? It's probably going to be more firm when he, comes out in Georgia. So I invited him to try out. Whole year goes by, ends up being their best arm. So I'm like, all right, this kid's going. And then, wow, what he put on out there was really impressive. I mean, that's the best I've seen him. He was up to 92, and I think he was sitting like 90, 91. He's a lot of people don't know still is his pinky was messed up. His changeup's his best pitch. So he was throwing it with a broken pinky. But the slider, he's got 3 pitches, and nothing was straight. And like you said, Les, I think he opened up a lot of guys' eyes, and I know he's got a lot of visits lined up and some offers in the back pocket. But that's another kid in the valley. Him and Davis Wilson are kind of from the same area, so guys in that area, they don't really get the most exposure. So for me to bring 2 guys like that and get to see all the love they're getting, it's another rewarding thing for me. But, Wyatt's one of those kids where he's probably going to end up somewhere in the South or, one of those big Power 4 schools. But, it's another name out of the Valley that, causes some noise.
Yeah, dude. And that's 6'2". I mean, $167.
If we're reaching there.
Dude, well, yeah. that frame is uber projectable too. Yeah, man. Like it's just long and skinny, right? And it's like, holy smokes, man! This guy with, like we were talking about earlier, you add 20 pounds to that frame. Like, what's that going to look like in 2 years when he's coming out of high school, when he's regularly when he's 93, 95, and isn't pitching with a broken pinky.
Yeah, and I saw him a couple weeks before, and he's like, "Yeah, man, my pinky's all messed up. I can't throw my changeup, so I'm only going fastball slider." I was like, "All right, you do you.
Do what you got to do."
Yeah, do what you got to do. Speaking of do what you got to do, a guy that did what he had to do, Hardy, for you, Bryce Ferris, out of NorCal. We talked about him in '96 in the outfield, but dude, he hopped on the mound in that last game, and holy crap! I looked at Hank. I was coaching third. I'm like, bro, what are we doing here?
Position player.
Why is this guy not on the mound earlier in the week, right? And Hank's like, good question. Right. But Hardy, Bryce Ferris was one of those guys who great dugout guy, but really opened some eyes and positionally as well.
Exactly. We talked about it. The kid's got arm strength. He's got power. I'm trying to pull up his stats real quick, but I think he was up around 97 miles an hour on his EV, 96 from the outfield, 6'9" runner. So he fits in comfortably with all these guys as a position player, whether that's on the left side of the infield at third base, playing the corner outfield somewhere. But it was really, and I know he got a knock while he was out there, a 2-strike knock. He looked good in the outfield. But, man, he came out on that last day when Hank ran out. I think it was one guy for 2 innings and then 6 straight innings of two-way guys, 1 inning, 1 inning, 1 inning. And he came out, and it was like first couple pitches and warm-ups. You're like, all right, like strong arm. You can see it. Like there's something there. Spins off a nice little kind of like sweepy-style slider. But then all of a sudden the game comes, and it's like 88, 89, 89, 90. Next pitch, 91. Next pitch, 92. Slider, 93. Slider, 94, 94. And I remember sitting there, and there were 5 or 6 coaches behind me. He hit the first 4, and they all said a 4-letter word that I can't repeat on this podcast and went, was that a 4? And then I kind of looked back and I smiled, and they were like, did he hit 4? I'm like, well, it says it on the board, so he hit 4. And then he throws the next one and he hits 4, like 94-2. And all of them just went, same word, like, where the heck was this kid? Yeah. I just kind of laughed. I'm like, well, he's a two-way guy. He's been playing the outfield all week, so he probably throws harder if he's fresh. And they all laughed, and he went 3 hitters, punched out 2. I think the one ball that got put in play on him was like a lazy fly ball, and it's raw in the sense that he hasn't focused on it. And you talk about McElroy getting better when he gets strength. Like, if he decides one day, I just want to get on the mound, this is a guy that could hit 100 one day and be a lights-out arm when he gets somewhere.
Yeah, and you were behind the plate, Hardy, and getting the video and watching from behind the plate. And just, like, it looked, at least from my angle, the movement on not only –
it's got life.
Not only
it
the
takes
slider,
off.
but the fastball, like, electric. Yeah.
The fastball goes here, and it just takes off with ride to the arm side. And then all of a sudden, the slider, like it's not a sharp one, but it's here, and then it just dives. And they tunnel really well off of each other, and he's really confident with the slider. Like, he's got no fear to just flip it in there and throw it for a strike and be like, you thought you were getting 92. Here you go. Here's 75.
Speaking of 75, it was funny when he hopped in because I think the inning before I threw a kid throwing like 80, 82.
Yeah.
So I think it was like Leoff, Mason, and whoever, and they get in the box, and I hear him like, how are we facing 82 to 94? Like, that's not fair. So I was just like, hey, I didn't know he was going to pop a 4 today. He was 90 at the tryout after a workout. And so props to him.
So that brings, I know we're going to kick it over to Vinny. And this was one, I like who you picked here, Vinny, because I generally look up to a lot of people in senses of stature. But he walked through the dugout, and Hank had given me a heads up, like, dude, this kid's really tall. Like, there's tall, and then there's really tall. And he walked in, and I looked up, and I'm like, holy crap, I look like a little kid next to this guy. So that's Vinny Boatwright, big 6'9" righty out of Chico up in NorCal.
Yeah, so I felt it was only fitting to talk about somebody I share a name with. Not a lot of Vinnies out there. But yeah, so Boatwright, I saw him throw, in Georgia, also at area codes, and it was both impressive on both occasions. He's 88 to 90, gets up to 91, 2,400 plus on his fastball. It's a 2-pitch, repertoire right now. Slider 75, 78, but he gets swing and miss with both. At area codes, it was fastball heavy attack, and I know he had the slider a little more in Georgia, but he gets swing and miss up in the zone, and he tunnels that well with the slider. And the thing I like about Vin is that he knows he's 6'7", 225, because he's a confident guy on the mound, and you can tell he knows he has an intimidating stature, and he uses that. He had a couple strikeouts, and you can tell that he had, some confidence after each swing and miss. So there's some guys that kind of just have a bulldog mentality on the mound, and I think I personally saw that on both occasions with Vinny. And it's heavy fastball to slider, more of a reliever profile at the moment without the third pitch. But if he does develop a third pitch, I think with the big leg kick and the fluid mechanics, I think there could be starter later down the line. But he's 225 that I think still can fill out in the lower half, which means 91 could get up, to 92, 93. But both occasions, swing and miss stuff, and a lot of projectability to like with a 6'7" guy who's up already at a 91. So
yeah, he was a lot of fun to be around too. Didn't say a whole lot. It was kind of quiet confidence.
Right.
He was a lot of fun to watch pitch in that game against Texas. And one of my favorite things that we do at the future games is we do obviously on-field BP, but we do that kind of that mass rainbow or waterfall infield with the infielders, where it's just like 100 fungos being hit at these guys before the game, just to kind of get them ready. And so we gather all the infielders, throw them at short, go across the diamond, turn two, backhands, forehands, do everything there. And one of the guys that really stood out to me was Stevie Wellens from NorCal. Was a shortstop for us on that NorCal team. And I think, Hank, after that waterfall infield, I looked at you and I'm like, dude, that's a SoCal shortstop. And then he went out in game and he made some plays. And I'm like, Hank, I think that's a Trinity League shortstop. And, I've been around the Trinity League for a long time, either coaching there or just kind of following it for the last, better part of the decade here with PBR. But I mean, his actions at shortstop are fluid. They're smooth. And to steal a line from Shooter Hunt, he seems to catch the ball in the right spot every time in the glove. The arm really works, the quickness to the feet, the transitions, from glove to hand to throw are incredibly fast. And it's just really impressive to me that, he stays low to the ground. He gets rid of the ball really fast. He had a couple knocks in the games, but his defense at short, where he started that double play, we didn't execute it on the back end, but it was kind of the backhand, the drop step, got rid of it fast, got it to the second baseman. I looked over at you, Hank, when he did that, and I was like, dude, I'm telling you, like this is a Trinity League shortstop, right? And, for me, it's like that's kind of the gold standard, right? If you started shortstop in the Trinity League, to me, at least in my opinion, you're one of the better shortstops in the country. And I have no doubt that Stevie Wellens could not only play shortstop in that league, but could start there. That was my first time seeing him, out in person. Obviously saw him in video, but I know that you were really high on him going into the event. And I think you even told me before the event, Les, I think you're going to really like Stevie. He can really pick it at short.
Yeah, Stevie, I know for a fact that he's one of the hardest workers off the field. And, being an undersized guy, like I understand that. And so with him, it's like, he's not going to blow you away on the showcase day, but, it's still good enough. He's a 6'9" runner. His EVs are over 100. What impressed me the most about Georgia was his bat. I think him and Riley Jackson led the team in hits, and whether it was him working a walk, hitting a double in the gap, turning two, he definitely made a name for himself out there. And he's one of those guys where I'm going to try to push for just because I know how hard he works off the field. And granted, he's not – if it was 6 foot, yeah, maybe a little different story. But Stevie Wellens is that person because, he works that hard.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple other guys that we won't dive too much into who I thought really performed really well. Andrew Weber from Upland High School. Hardy, I know you were really high on him, was 87 to 90. He pitched really well for Team SoCal.
He was the beneficiary of that tight strike zone. He was the guy that was throwing to where he was getting squeezed in that first inning, and kid battled through it. Like, he competed his butt off to get through what was a strike zone about as tall as I am.
Yeah, and Jonah Cohen out of Palos Verdes, 89 to 91. I thought he performed really well on the mound as well. We talked about Mully. Mully scuffled a bit at the dish, but defensively he was lights out, man. I was just really impressed with how far his game is elevated. Defensively, I think the bat will catch up. He had a really good spring for Valley Christian, if I'm not mistaken.
Played left field.
Yeah. I mean, offensively, Cody Brown, catcher now out of Norco. Same with Mully defensively. I thought he did really, really well behind the plate. He had a couple of knocks in the game. Quentin Hill, out of Berkeley High, Hank, I thought he performed really well out there given the circumstances. The nice outfielder can really go get it. The arm really plays. I think the at-bats, he had some couple quality at-bats, maybe not a lot to show for it. I think Chase Mena out of San Marino was really good. We mentioned he played for Team NorCal the first couple games and then switched over to SoCal for the last game. Defensively, I think he's really good in the outfield. He can go get it. Arm strength really plays. I really like the bat from the left side too. I think that's really good. You talked a little bit about Chase Johnson, the outfielder out of Redwood.
He made a fantastic catch that last game. Almost two, right?
Yeah.
Second diving. He's another Swiss Army knife outfield infield guy.
We touched on Cummings and Munyon. Cummings' defense has taken that next step. He was at the preseason All-State. He came to the tryout. I want to say it was the Modern Day tryout where we were at, Vinnie. And really impressed me at least. He added 15 pounds from the preseason All-State to when he showed up to Georgia, which, I mean, guys don't typically add muscle and strength during the season, but he really added that girth to his body. Cole Munyon, he hit that no doubt bomb in that last game. I know you were really high on him going into it, Hardy. I think he sticks on the left side of the infield. Just a really impressive guy.
The bat's going to play. That's the thing. He was another one that first day it sped up on him when we played North Texas, and you could see his face and reactions was, this isn't the Armani League anymore, bud. This is different out here. But he slowed it down. Same, him and Richter did the same thing. It sped up on him night one. They calmed down day two, and then they went off on day three, and they capitalized on their moments.
Couple other guys, Zion Martinez, who obviously we've been fond of for years, another JFG guy from a couple years ago.
He hits the balls hard.
Yes, preseason All-State. Hit a bomb out at Corona that I don't know. I think it landed in Riverside. That ball was just smoked. Came to the tryout, did more of the same, hit a bomb at Modern Day that landed in the football field. Put a show on during BP. He hit 3 balls on the screws out in Georgia that were 95 plus, just right at the right fielder, right at the second baseman. A little tough luck there, but he did have a few knocks as well. And then your guy, Jace Woolley, Hank, I'm a fan, dude. That guy was good.
I love Jace. Even just seeing him at the tryout, he was one of the guys that came up to me at the end. He's like, "Hey, coach, you need help, clean up stuff." And I got a good feel for him there. And then, obviously the tools, that arm is ridiculous for come. And then even the in-game hacks, Hardy. Remember that last
He don't
day?
get cheated at that play. That little man takes a hack, and I love it. He hit a ball, and it went foul, but it may have gone as far as any ball that we hit fair over the course of the 3 days, and it was like daddy hack. He took a daddy hack. There's no better way to say it. He did not get cheated.
Yeah, no, great family, great kid too.
Yeah, he was really good. Evan Rodriguez scuffled a bit at the plate, but man, like it doesn't affect him. And that's what really impressed me about a lot of our guys is like, yeah, dude, I might be struggling at the dish right now, but I'm the same guy, right? And for kids that age to be able to have that mentality, that's pretty damn impressive. And obviously, Erod was on the fence of making the team last year for us, Hardy, after what he did out at the tryout up at Westmont. But behind the plate, he was the same solid guy. But I just think the mentality, the football background, I think that mentality to be able to flush it and move on was really impressive.
Yeah, and we moved him around. He played some outfield. He caught, so he was doing multiple things there. He's athletic. And the thing, like you said, is he was scuffling at the plate, and he had chances to expand the zone to try to chase that hit, and he didn't do it. He stayed in the zone. He made pitchers come to him. I think he had 2 or 3 walks over the week out there, and it was like, okay, he easily could have just swung to try to get a hit and got the whole stat line to look worse, but he took what the game gave him. And like you said, that football background, that kid does not get flustered. He comes, mom's high up in the LAPD, so he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's been raised well. He's going to be a great kid.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, any final thoughts on the 2025 future games and before we hit the road here?